The glass was halfway to his mouth when time fractured. Ice shifted inside it with a soft, almost polite sound, the kind you only noticed when everything else went quiet. The bartender saw the tilt of the amber liquid, the way it caught the low bar light and threw it back in warped reflections. She saw his fingers tighten slightly around the rim, not in anticipation but in habit. He always paused there, always waited that extra second. That second stretched. Her breath stalled in her chest. Not because she was afraid fear came later, but because something in her body recognized the moment before her mind did. The air felt heavier, as if the room had been sealed. Even the music seemed to hesitate, a note lingering too long before resolving. She moved without deciding to. The note was already in her hand. She didn't remember writing it. She remembered the pen scratching, the paper tearing, the fold made once and only once. Muscle memory, not thought. Survival rarely asked permission. She slid it under the base of the glass as smoothly as she had slid 1,000 coasters before. No eye contact. No apology. Just a whisper of paper against polished wood. Don't drink it. Smile. Leave now. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then his hand dropped. Not to the bar. To her wrist. The grip wasn't violent. That was the first thing she noticed. No jerk, no forceful yank that would draw eyes. Just a sudden, precise closure of fingers around bone and tendon, firm enough that she couldn't pull away without effort, controlled enough that no one else would think twice if they happened to glance over. The glass hovered forgotten, inches from the bar. The room didn't react. Didn't need to. Power didn't announce itself here. It didn't raise its voice or knock things over. It moved quietly, and the room had learned to move with it. Her pulse thudded beneath his thumb. She could feel him register it, the way his grip adjusted minutely, not tightening, just confirming. Alive. Alert. Not panicking. Good then. She didn't look at him right away. That was instinct too. You never rushed into eye contact when someone had chosen control over chaos. You let the moment settle. You let them decide how it would unfold. Ice cracked softly as the glass tilted back down onto the bar. The sound landed louder than it should have, a small betrayal of how tense the air had become. Somewhere behind them, a laugh rose and fell, brittle and wrong, then died out. She swallowed. This was the moment people always imagined differently later. They pictured shouting. Or violence. Or the kind of confrontation that made sense when retold. It was none of that. It was quiet. His hand remained around her wrist, steady, patient. The kind of patience that had ended conversations, careers, lives without ever being hurried. You slipped, he said. Not loud. Not angry. Just a statement placed between them like another object on the bar. Yes, she replied. One word. Flat. Neither apology nor challenge. The note lay there, innocent and damning at the same time, its edges already darkening slightly from condensation. He hadn't unfolded it yet. He didn't need to. He already knew what it meant. The bartender became acutely aware of everything at once. The faint citrus smell from a recently cut garnish. The stickiness of the bar top where someone had spilled something sweet earlier. The way the mirror behind the shelves reflected the room, giving her a second view of faces that pretended not to see. Micro-questions began stacking in her mind, one after another, each more dangerous than the last. Had anyone else noticed the glass? Had anyone else touched it? Was she wrong? Was she too late? Had she just made herself the problem? His thumb shifted slightly, pressing closer to the place where her pulse jumped. A reminder. Or a test. She lifted her eyes then. His face was calm. That was worse than anger. Calm meant he wasn't reacting. He was processing. Sorting possibilities. Deciding which ones deserved to live past this moment. You don't do this, he said. I know. You don't interrupt, he continued. You don't warn. You don't assume. I know. Another pause. The silence between his words was deliberate, space to make room for her to fill it if she was foolish enough to try. She wasn't. The glass sat untouched. The audience, if there had been one brave enough to focus, would have thought the danger had passed. Nothing dramatic had happened. No raised voices. No sudden movement. That was the lie of it. This was the knife edge. The place where a night tipped into something else entirely, and no one would know until much later. He finally unfolded the note. The paper made the softest sound, barely audible. His eyes moved across the words without changing expression. When he finished, he refolded it carefully, aligning the edges as if neatness mattered. "Smile," he repeated quietly. She didn't respond. The grip tightened just enough to register. Not pain. Pressure. Ownership of the moment. "Who sent you?" he asked. The question floated there, heavy with consequences. She answered the only way she could. "No one." He studied her face, searching for cracks. There were none he could see. Not because she was unafraid, but because she understood what fear looked like from the outside and knew better than to show it. The ice in the glass shifted again, melting now, reshaping itself around time. The longer it sat, the more inevitable everything felt. Around them, life continued. Someone ordered another drink. Someone checked a phone. Someone opened the door, letting in a rush of cold air that did nothing to break the tension clinging to the bar like a second skin. The audience, if they were listening closely, would feel it then. The sense that the obvious danger wasn't the point. That the drink wasn't the real threat. That the note wasn't a warning so much as a signal. Something had already gone wrong. His hand was still on her wrist. The glass was still full. And the smile he'd worn when he first walked in, easy, practiced, disarming, had not returned. Not yet. The bar had learned how to hold its breath long before the man ever walked in. Did it every night, actually, just in case. The lights were always a little dimmer than necessary, the music a little slower than whatever was popular outside. Glassware clinked softly, never sharply. Laughter rose and fell like it had been trained. Nothing here was an accident. Nothing here ever drew attention to itself unless it was supposed to. When the door opened and he stepped inside, the room didn't freeze. That would have been obvious. Instead, it adjusted. Conversations lowered by half a note. Chairs shifted so legs crossed instead of stretched. The bartender felt it before she saw it, the same way you feel pressure change before a storm breaks. She didn't look up right away. You never looked up right away. He didn't arrive with an entourage. That was the first rule. Men who needed to be seen arrived with noise. Men who already were seen arrived alone. He wore a dark suit that wasn't flashy enough to be new and wasn't worn enough to be careless. No jewelry. No watch. People noticed the absence before they noticed anything else. Absence was a kind of statement. He chose the same stool he always chose, 3 seats from the end. Close enough to the exit to leave without brushing past anyone. Far enough from the corner that he wasn't boxed in. He placed his hand on the bar once, not to get attention, but to confirm that the surface was clean. It was. It always was. Only then did the bartender look up. She had poured thousands of drinks in this room. She had memorized faces without meaning to. This one she didn't need to memorize. He had weight. Not physical weight, he wasn't large, but a kind of gravity that bent behavior around him. He didn't scan the room. He didn't need to. If something changed, he would feel it. The bartender understood that instinct intimately. It was the same one that had kept her alive for years, sharpened by different circumstances, honed in places she no longer let herself remember too clearly. She nodded once. Not deferential. Not friendly. Neutral. That was the balance. Neutrality was the currency of the bar, and it was expensive. "The usual?" she asked. He looked at her then. Really looked. His eyes were calm, which was what unsettled people most. Anger you could predict. Calm meant calculation. He gave the smallest possible nod. She reached for the glass. This was neutral ground. Everyone knew that. Deals happen elsewhere. Arguments ended here. Blood never touched the floor, not because it couldn't, but because it wouldn't. The rules were old, older than the building, older than the neighborhood. They had survived renovations, ownership changes, police raids that somehow never quite found what they were looking for. The rules held because everyone agreed they were useful. The bartender was part of those rules. She wasn't important, and that was precisely why she mattered. She poured the drink the same way she always did. Measured. Clean. No flourish. She slid it across the bar, stopping it exactly where his hand would be when he reached for it. She didn't rush. Rushing made people nervous. Nervous people made mistakes. As the glass settled, she noticed the other man. He was sitting 2 stools away, pretending to be absorbed in his phone. That by itself wasn't strange. What was strange was that he hadn't looked up when the Mafia boss entered. Everyone looked, even if only for a fraction of a second. Even people who tried not to. This man hadn't. His drink was untouched.